art is the kind of the it's the antithesis of all experiences that you have. So in essence, all the different experiences that I have come into my artwork, and I guess you'd say like probably the most potent experiences that really cause a lot of change. So I've done a lot of traveling. That's reflected a lot in the art, like going to different places and seeing different cultures. You know, I've had a couple different like brushes with death throughout my life, and so any sort of like a near-death or traumatic experience, I find that those often come out in my artwork. You know, like the loss of a close friend. You know, the trauma, any sort of like trauma. A lot of things that would be considered trauma and damage, I found have also been really they can offer a lot of inspiration once you've kind of overcome them, or if you use art as a therapy to overcome those experiences. So usually any experience that you would kind of classify as dramatic, cataclysmic, or even profound and like wonderful. Like getting married was an experience that changed the shape of my art and my inspiration. Yeah, if I look back, like the big experience I had was when I was 11. I had a major brain surgery for like a brain tumor, and I got like I went under and they took a big chunk out and kind of like they peeled my face off and put my head back together, and that was probably one of the first big like near-death experiences I had, where it allowed me to take a real evaluation of where I was at. I was 11 years old, and so that was kind of, for being an 11-year-old mentality, to kind of get so close to death and then be right at the edge of death and actually kind of go through and be under and then come back afterwards. It changed the whole perspective that I had on life. Like my life before there was kind of divided, and kind of like before that experience and after that experience, and it put a lot of things in perspective for me. It made me realize that life, we are on a limited track. There's a finite amount of days and dreams and breaths that we're all going to take. And because I felt fortunate to have the technology around me to make it through something where 10 years ago we wouldn't have had the technology to do that, I felt a certain gratitude towards science and towards innovation and technology. And it made me realize that the life is very short. It's shorter than we think, and that within the context of the time that I had left, I really wanted to do something that would leave behind. I realized that we aren't going to be around forever, and once we're gone, all we really have is what we've created and what we've left with people. And so I was really interested in art back then, and that really catalyzed my devotion towards being an artist and doing the most with the time that I had left. There's a lot of significance, actually. My birth name is Andrew, and when I was younger, when I was like 6 or 8 years old, one of my uncles always called me Android. It was just a nickname that he came up with, and ever since then it always kind of has stuck. And I don't know, it's kind of a cart before the horse. I don't know which influenced the other, but through my own life there's a lot of the name. I've stuck with the name because there's occurrences and things about my personality that work with that. One is the fact that I have this major surgery, and they kind of went into my brain and they kept me alive by machines, and so there's that aspect of the name. There's also the fact that I'm very, I'm a product of technology. So I wouldn't have this conversation, this interview, if it wasn't for technology around me. And so in essence, there is part of my reality and my existence that is cybernetic in a way. And so, the attraction that I have towards technology and towards digital art and kind of the merger of analog art and traditional art together, it continues to reinforce that sort of avatar for me. So I've kind of kept the Android Jones as a name, and also it's easier. We live in this like Google searchable age, so Android Jones is easier to find than Andrew Jones. I think I'm a baseball player or something. The medium that I enjoy the most is the digital medium, and I consider that the medium of light and energy, because I'm actually fabricating images that can be produced on a three-dimensional or tangible level with electricity. And I think that that's the most exciting medium to use. Like I said, I do enjoy, the chaos and the randomness of ink and brush and acrylics and pencil, and there's always a really nice like tactile element to that. But I feel that because there is an electric medium that's available to artists, I feel a responsibility to take full advantage of what's available now. All the artists that came before me, that I'm only able to really stand on the shoulders of what's been created. There's a whole history of artists that have explored colored pencils and ink and acrylic and watercolors and gouache, and there's a lot of artists that I think have really mastered that. If you look at like a Bouguereau or you look at a Velasquez or a Rembrandt, it's hard to argue that they didn't actually master what is capable with dried pigments and animal hair on pieces of fabric and linen. I mean, they did a pretty good job. We can go into photorealism and different things, but I feel that within the realm of how technology is capable of increasing the bandwidth of human creativity and where we are as a culture on this planet with the available tools, I feel a certain, obligation and responsibility to make the most out of what we have now, because it's so new. A lot of the programs that I use them in ways that they weren't intended for. I'll use different programs together. I appreciate this tool set that's created, that people spent a lot of their lives and time creating these platforms without the full expectations of what was going to be. I think that's the true purpose of a tool, is to put it out there and know that you've created something that will go beyond how you imagine it being used. And so I see the opportunity of being the Imagineer that takes these different pieces, puts them together in novel and interesting ways, and to the point where the work that I do will encourage other tool makers to make new tools for other artists to use. And I like being part of that lineage.